What's up, everyone, and welcome to Ola Learns. And today I finally brought out one of my favorite guests, Jon Björk, who was once my guitar teacher. You kind of still are my guitar teacher. It's just that the lessons aren't happening that often. I've been doing lessons with Jon. I had some of them on YouTube videos you can watch here. Jon also runs his own YouTube channel where he's sharing a lot of knowledge about guitar playing. And I saw Jon when I was like 14 years old. Locally, he was playing with a band, he was playing at PRS, and I thought he was amazing. So, and it's just so funny that we're sitting here, almost 30 years later, and I still have the same problem, and I still look up to you in the same way as I did when I was 14 years old. So, the reason why I brought you here, Jon, is because, autumn is here, back to routines, back to work. I mean, I do this for a living, but a lot, I sit and play guitar a lot on shows, but, that's the only guitar I get to play because there's everything else as well, the editing and, I never play guitar more than the things that people see in my videos. So I'm thinking, I have, kids, I have, go home after a full day of work and I'm just tired, man. Like, how do I get back into practicing guitar again? Because I haven't practiced guitar in ages. Like, what should I focus on when, my energy is low, my time is short? Like, how do I get back into the grind?
Yeah, well, it's a very common problem for everyone, myself included as well, even though I play guitar all day. But as far as actual practicing and keeping on track with stuff, and I see this a lot in students as well, where you have people with very different backgrounds and amount of time to practice. But I think the most important thing is to, number one, find something that's important to you. Because it doesn't matter if you, carve out some time and you're going to sit down and practice and then you practice something you're not interested in. You're not going to get anywhere with that.
Yeah.
So that's the first step. And I think the best way that I found to find that thing that you want to learn is actually to try to learn music by ear. And then because two things can happen. Either you can play it right away, or you're going to find that you have trouble with something. And that's a clue where you can find like, oh, there's something here. I want to be able to play it because you started learning it, but you couldn't play it. So then you have a very concrete problem to solve. And then from there, there's different ways you can do it in terms of strategies on how to get it in during your day and all that kind of stuff. So going on a big monologue here, but it's basically what I found is it's very effective if you boil these problems down to goals, and then keep the goal list quite short, so maybe 3 to 5 items,
right?
So you don't get overwhelmed. And then, when you start your day, how does your day start normally?
Well, I go into my other room. I'm going to write a Swola today, a Swola song, and I just pick up the guitar and oh, that sounded cool. Let's make that into a song.
But that's still productive, That's still productive.
Well, I kind of force myself because I have to do that every week. But other than that, I just sit and read emails and answer emails. That's what I do. That's how you start your day. And guitar-wise, it's just like, okay, now I can play guitar because I have to write this song. So I try to have these Ola Learns segments where I try and learn other people's songs because that's how I learned guitar back in the day. And I still much prefer that than going the tab route, which
I 100% agree.
So, and that's also something I tell people, like, okay, learn your favorite songs, but don't learn them with tab. Learn them by ear. Because you practice your ear.
Exactly. But use that stuff to your advantage instead. So start by learning by ear, and then you can check your work with the tabs and all the YouTube stuff. And then you can, as you get better, you need to check less and less. But it's good to have that stuff, and so don't disregard it. But don't start with the tabs. Start with actually learning by ear.
Okay.
Because it will take a bit longer, but also once you learn something by ear, it will feel much better. Plus, you will remember it better.
Yeah.
So that's my preferred way of doing it.
Okay. So I have one thing that. Something I always come back to is like when I listen to myself play, if I solo and I'm like, okay, that needs to be worked on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably, and I know exactly what to do, but give me some tips anyways. Basically, I think it's the rhythm of alternate picking, for instance.
Yeah.
Like how to keep a completely super consistency in rhythm while playing longer runs. And, I feel like when I'm playing, I feel like sometimes when I want to play with a click, which I know is that's the answer. You need to play with a metronome to practice this. I feel that, without the metronome, it sounds like absolute horseshit. So how do I fix that?
Well, I think it depends on the sound that you want, because it's a very different sound if you compare Yngwie's playing, for example, with, let's say, vintage Paul Gilbert. It's kind of different in the way that Paul Gilbert would be more or Petrucci is an even better example. It's very subdivided in a way. It's going to be 6 notes per beat, there's going to be 5 notes per beat, there's going to be 4 notes per beat or whatever, where Yngwie would float more and then maybe just aim for a certain part of the beat.
Right.
And I like both, but regardless which one you like, I think you should definitely be able to do the subdivided one as well. But I think the best way to do that is to, like you said, work with a click, but not only that, work with the different subdivisions. So you're familiar with the subdivisions?
Yes.
Just take something like this.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Just repeat that, and then you can do it in 16th notes. So what happens then is that you don't always get the first note on the beat. It takes a few reps before you're back on the beat again.
Okay, yeah.
And that will strengthen your ability to play whatever subdivision you want instead of sticking to a particular pattern on the guitar.
Right.
Because you hear this a lot with legato stuff, where people start getting the legato thing going with 3 notes per string, and everything sounds like triplets.
Yes.
Because they always go. It's always, So you want to be able to do that with whatever subdivision you want. And that's the same thing with picking as well. So I think it's probably easier to start with the picking because you have, 2 hands to keep time. Yeah. But do it really slowly and actually start without a metronome first and just count it out. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
Okay, so.
Yeah. Exactly. So now, once you've done that, you can do that a few more times, but then you should start on the next note of the pattern. So you start from here and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
Okay, so.
Yeah. Exactly. And even though we're playing the same thing, it feels different.
Oh, it's, dude, my brain is boiling right now. That small little change.
Yeah, so that's what you want to do. So then you start on the 3rd note, 4th, and then 5th and 6th. So then you're basically going through all the variations that can happen with 16th notes and using a 6-note pattern.
Oh my God.
And this actually helps with synchronization like crazy as well. So it's a really good thing to work on. So and I call this technique looping. And I've seen guys like Tom Quayle uses this for legato as well. So you need to focus on the... and then go through all the variations again.
Okay.
So it's something you can apply to pretty much anything. And it's really helpful just to get that... you're in charge of the subdivision instead of, I have 3 notes per string, I guess I need to play triplets. Because that's not very musical.
No.
So
how would you divide a practice session for this?
Well, this is fairly easy to do. So you can do it in a few different ways. One, you can just decide that, okay, I'm going to do 1 minute on each starting point. So you can just loop it for 1 minute. You use a timer, and then you do that. So you have 6 minutes on each one, and then if you want to turn that around, so you get 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Or maybe you want to be like, well, that's way too much time.
Yeah.
Maybe just chuck
way too much time.
Yeah. So maybe you can just decide to take a scale shape. And then you divide the whole scale into these small 6-note fragments. And then you basically go through the whole thing like we did. So you go like, if that works, then you can move on to the next one. You don't need to repeat it.
Right.
So let's say that didn't work, then don't move on. You need to solve whatever problem you got then.
Yes.
But then the goal of the practice session in this case then could be that you do that on each string group. So you do, in this case, E and A, and then you go, when you're done with all of those, you go to A and D, D and G, D and B, and B and E. And then you want to do that descending as well. So it depends on how much time you have. But I mean, if you do this and you don't screw it up, and a good way to not screw things up is to lower the tempo, which guitar players hate to hear. They don't want to hear that.
Yes, exactly.
So, but that's where the foot comes into play here, and why you don't necessarily need a metronome to begin with. Because if you have a metronome, you need to have it at a tempo where you kind of get this sort of groove going, where it goes by itself. Because if you put the metronome too slow, it's basically going to be like, oh shit! Here it is. But if
you can swing
exactly,
so much in it.
Exactly. But if you count and just make sure that your foot is always hitting the one, you can count as slow as you want. So and this is something that's been really helpful for me, both teaching people to play different subdivisions, but also for my own learning. Because I used to try doing it with a metronome, and then when I started trying to learn like groups of 7, and then you have to start a metronome, and you're kind of like, what the hell? It's so hard to get into it. But if you just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2. Then it's very easy because you can basically go as slow as you need to, and as long as you count as evenly as possible. And most people can count in time. I haven't met one student that can't go 1, 2, 3, 4. So but there's people out there that have a problem with that. But then they really need to work on this. But you don't need a metronome initially. But then as you get more comfortable with this, you can just use a metronome, and then you don't need to do the counting. But it's super important to do that first, though, because then you're in full control of everything, and it's very clear for your brain what you're trying to do.
Can I use this for legato as well?
Absolutely.
Because I need to practice my legato as well.
Yeah, but I think it's almost even more beneficial for legato, because then you get away from this that thing. So you kind of want to. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah. And I really suggest that you stop on the note you started. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So you always finish the loop.
Okay.
Because if you stop on the note before, it's going to be like, huh?
Oh, okay, yeah. So finish the loop, basically.
Exactly. So you always want to go. I basically just call it X plus 1. So X is whatever subdivision you do, and then plus 1 is to end on the next beat.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So you go through the same process with the legato as well.
Okay.
And the thing you should focus on there is to avoid hitting a new string harder. So I'm talking about the dynamics here. So you don't want to go. That's a very natural thing to do when you do triplets, because then the accent would be there. Yeah. Because you have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But if you do 16th notes, it's gonna stick out. You're gonna get like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. You don't want that. So the solution here is to not necessarily accent, but just try to keep the dynamics as even as possible. Okay. And this really goes into listening to what you're playing. So you really try to. It's very hard to do this, and I think
would you use, when practicing, would you use any type of picking at all? Or?
Yeah, I tend to do.
Just mute.
I tend to do. in general, when I do legato, I tend to use hybrid picking just for the, so.
Okay.
But in this particular pattern, you have so much time anyway, so you could basically.
Yes.
It doesn't really matter, even if you start on the second note or third note, or whatever. So the picking is less important here, but whatever pick stroke or finger, whatever you use, try to minimize the attack when you change strings. So basically, you want the picked note to be same dynamic as the legato. Yeah. Exactly. That's actually a good variation. You can do, if you go like this, let's see.
Oh, yeah.
Why that's so good is because you have 3 groups of 16th notes, so that's 1, 2, 3, and then you put a 16th-note triplet on the 4th beat, so that everything works out in 1 bar of 4/4, so it feels very natural. But that's a great way of practicing, and it becomes tricky when you do that on starting the 2nd note and 3rd note, and obviously you need to do this descending as well, and that can be even harder because a lot of people have trouble with the pull-offs.
And also starting with the pinky on the next string, maybe.
Yeah.
When you're like.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a hard.
But you can still pick everything here when you change strings. But one tip though, when you start, instead of picking the start, you can actually. So for the legato, for the pull-offs, you can start like this. If I want to start on that note, I simply don't pick this note and just go.
Okay. So just as a. Pull it off.
Exactly. So then, because then you're really keeping the technique consistent as well. It feels really weird though when you start doing it, but but it is worth trying. And the same thing goes here. You want everything to sound as good as possible, obviously. But one thing when we're talking about pull-offs is that it's very easy to do that. So, and a good way to find how much you actually need to, push down when you do it, is just to go. Just use too little at first, and then you just add more pressure until you can feel, and you can do it exactly at that tempo. And just go between like too little, where it sounds like shit, and then basically where you can feel that you start to getting the right amount of volume. And usually, what happens is that you find that it's less than you think.
Yes.
Because it's very easy to start like this. But that's not going to work when you want to.
I think my problem is that, I go from this. Picking hard, and then suddenly you're like, okay, you're playing live, and you're like, okay, let's play a little softer. It's impossible, basically.
Yeah. But also, it can sound great to. You can add, it's a different thing. So it's not a rule.
No.
But I think for practicing though, it's good to do it this way because. Regardless, you're going to find that you have more control, and also this is a very much rhythmical control when you do it as well. So, but this pattern we did here, it's just a very easy way to explain it. But try it on anything basically. It's the same thing. If you have something like pattern like that, you simply number the notes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's the first variation. Yeah. So you want to get the group going, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you do that in groups of 4. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
Okay.
So that can, sounds kind of weird, but. Yeah, exactly. And then once that one starts to feel, bit better, then you start on the second note, so then you have to go like, okay, so 1, 2, so you start on this note, so basically the pattern's going to be like this. And then you go through the whole cycle again.
Oh my God.
Oh, almost. The thing with this, that's such a weird thing, and it also really shows you that we play guitar with our brains more than our fingers, because this is exactly the same sequence.
Yeah, I know.
It's like if I sit like this and you come in the door and let's say
and I hear you playing it from the second
exactly.
note. Exactly. Yeah.
So it's really a good thing to do though, because otherwise it can be really frustrating, and you probably felt this sometimes when you've been working on something and everything works really great, and then you try to apply it in something, and for whatever reason you have it's not even that you're starting on a different note, it's just rhythmically it makes it sound like you start on a different note, and you totally fall apart.
Yes.
So going through things like this basically will sort of bulletproof the stuff that you're working on.
I think this is exactly what I need, because usually when I do practice stuff like this, I just start with that, you know, going from one, and then it's like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
And that's it, and you never go to the next. So I'm really good at starting, you know, a lick on the first fret and not really. So this is absolutely, this is something I really need to work on for sure.
But also, I don't believe that you need to be, you know, as good with every variation, because that can be a bit, you know, it doesn't really matter. You just want to get to the point where, you know, the first one always feels better, but then variation number 3 still feels a bit dodgy, but it you can still do it at, you know, a way higher quality than you did when you started practicing it. So I think that's that also makes practicing more interesting, because you're not sitting and just repeating one thing, you know, for hours. Instead, you get you know, more input for your brain, and that's going to improve your playing faster as well. So I like that a lot.
I mean, I guess I can do one mode a day. Like if I really want to cram it down,
so
I can start on the same lick. But on one day for 5 minutes, I just start with. So next day I fuck it up. No, but at least playing something that's challenging for your brain every day. It's just that I need to come to that part, because right now it's like there's so many days where I'm not playing guitar. But if I just give it like 2 minutes. Of challenging my brain.
So I think what works for me, I mean, I probably have more time to practice than most, since I just make guitar content and stuff like that. So, but I also kind of have to do it then. But I have a lot of people that are very busy, lawyers and stuff, and it's not a hack. I don't like hacks, but it's a method that works really well, and that's have your list of things that you're going to practice. You know, keep it to 3 to 5 things, and let's say if you want to go really specific, let's say like, oh, you know that starting on the second note is horrible for you. That should be on your list. And then you're making coffee in the morning. You can pick up a guitar. It doesn't need to be plugged in. Just enough for you to hear what you're doing.
And while the coffee's brewing.
Yeah, exactly. So if you do that, just sit down, do that really slowly, focusing on everything, even for 5 minutes. If you do that, you know, consistently, and anytime you find any type of gaps in the day, you can do things from the list, and that's gonna give you a great result in the long run. Because I think a lot of people tend to look for like, well, I don't have this 2-hour gap in my schedule, and no one has that, really. So I don't either, because I have dogs that need to go out. So, you know, you kind of have to find the small gaps in your day and then make the best use out of it.
So keep a guitar close by at all times. Basically.
Yeah, a solo guitar works even better.
So good. I like it.
So but that really helps though. So otherwise, you know how it is. You pick up a guitar, you have 5 minutes, and you just sit there and play whatever you find, you know, or what should I practice? And then before you know it, the coffee is done, and then you have to get on with your day. So this works if you have, you know, a lot of time, but it also works really well if you have less time to practice.
So basically, force yourself 5 minutes every day. At least. I'm gonna live with
you shouldn't have to force yourself though.
Because that's the thing too. I love guitar so much, but it's like it's always the non-priority. Because, you know, I also need to make a living out of things. That's why I do Ola Learns on the workday, because then I get to practice while working. So it's great.
But it really is though, when it comes to practicing. So everybody's probably seen the Rick Beato Yngwie interview now, and I've seen a lot of people getting pissed off because he's like, oh, he says that he didn't practice. But I really don't think he practiced in that sense. He played a lot, and I think if you play, and he said that he played 8 hours plus from 13 to 18. If you put in that amount of time, it's less important what you play, because you have so much time. But the less time you have, the more specific you need to be with what you do with that time. And another thing about the English thing, and this is very important for anyone that's practicing anything, is let's call it like a practice filter. And basically, if you have a very high standard for what you find acceptable when you work on technique, for example, that you want to do it cleanly and whatever, if you put your practice through that filter, it doesn't really matter if you have a specific set of exercises, or if you work on even different licks every day, it could also work, because as long as you use that, you filter everything through that thing where you don't let yourself sit there and just try to go for it, you will end up improving a lot. And of course, if you do that for 8 hours a day, like Englund did, you're gonna get pretty, staggering results.
Well, you get the 10,000 hours easy.
Yeah, and that's that's my pet peeve. 10,000 hours.
You're good.
but the thing is with the 10,000 hours, though, that Malcolm Gladwell missed in his book. So the research is based on another guy, and they saw that people who practice that much, they were at a certain level. But it's not only sitting with your guitar for 10,000 hours. Is what they call deliberate practice. And deliberate practice is pretty much what we're doing now. You know exactly what you want to achieve, and you have a specific problem that you try to solve.
Yeah.
So that's the deliberate practice thing. So if you do that for 10,000 hours, absolutely, I agree with that. But just sitting around, 10 hours a day.
Yeah. You're going to be really good at playing.
It's probably the best in the world, actually. I'm very lonely as well. I think, probably be divorced in a week.
Jon, thank you so much. You better go subscribe to Jon's channel. It's Jon Björk, and he also has an Instagram if you want quick tips and quick videos. It's the way to go, man. And I mean, Jon, in my opinion, is one of the best guitar players out there, in my opinion. And when he speaks, you need to listen, okay? So good. I think I have a couple of things to bring me and keep me awake this winter. I'm gonna try and not play as much video games and play a little bit more guitar. But you know how it is in winter.
Yeah.
It's nice to sit on the couch and. But yeah, I have a guitar at home now. I didn't have a guitar for a long time actually, because I was just fatigued when I got home.
That's the weirdest thing I've heard. You own a guitar company, didn't have a guitar at home. That's
right?
Amazing.
but I just, because I was fatigued at the job, I was playing guitar all day, and I think I needed to get rid of that. Now I have it back again. So when I sit at home, I actually sit and just for the fun of it,
But even if you play video games, I love playing video games. I love Skyrim and stuff like that. That's really time consuming. But if you do that, just have a break every 30 minutes or something, and go play guitar for 5 minutes. Even if you do that, you're gonna at least keep your technique up if you do that. So you don't have to go all in on either or. You can actually do a little bit of both. So
that's my problem.
Yeah.
Well, I have to do everything. Just one thing for a long time.
Yeah. Well,
Vampire Survivors or something like that. All right, thank you so much, Jon. Do you wanna play an outro?
Not really. But whoops.
I mean, even if you play the wrong note, you made it sound like it was completely right, Thank you so much, Jon. Always a pleasure. You're welcome here anytime.
Thank you so much.
Jon Björk, everyone.